Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Works out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, happy Friday, everybody. Hope your week is going well and you're ready for the weekend. If you're not, it's too late. It's here. But big weekend in store, big day in store, big show. We've got an absolute loaded lineup. Alec Lasley will join us. We'll get an IU update on IU basketball recruiting with Alec. Alex Robbins will join us after that, and we'll talk about the impact of the National Labor Relations Board memo that went out from an attorney's perspective. Zach Osterman will join us from the Indy Star, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic, and David Eckert from Rivals Penn State. We're going to talk about a little preview of what's going to happen tomorrow over in Happy Valley. So plenty to get to. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you. Of course, we're brought to you by the great folks at Southern Stone Restaurant. Whether it's a celebration or just a relaxing night away from the kitchen, try something fresh and new. Southern Stone Restaurant, located at the corner of Rogers and Patterson in Bloomington. They're open for lunch and dinner. Southern Stone offers comfort food with a Southern charm. Enjoy the outdoor patio or inside with a view. Southern Stone has great food, knowledgeable bartenders, and you can catch the IU basketball and the IU football coaches shows live from there each week. Southern Stone Restaurant. Looking forward to going there. That's a great place to go after Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday to catch the Penn State game. If you're looking for a place to do that, I know that Ryan, one of our listeners, is on his way down from Northern Indiana. People coming in, so it's going to be interesting to see that. Let's see. Someone asked Chris, did you read the story of the two that didn't blink? Leland Trey. No. Not sure what that was, but Scott says he wished the university would live stream for free to make it a celebration of a new era. Well, if they were live streaming, I'm going to say that they would fear not as nearly as many people would show up. And I'll be honest with you. I'm interested to see how full it gets. You can start lining up at 7 a.m., which that's going to be mainly students, I would imagine, if any. I'm sure there will be some out there at 7 a.m., although this does not start until 4 p.m., people. So it'll be interesting to see how that line starts filling. I'm interested to see how many people go. Does it fill? Luke, how you doing? So it'd be interesting to see that. It's going to be big. I'm not questioning that. I think that the Indiana basketball fans are very excited and looking forward to the new era starting, the Mike Woodson era. I'm sure it's going to be pretty cool for him to walk out of that tunnel with the crowd, the noise, the lights off, all that, being introduced as the head coach for the first time. Awesome for him, I'm sure. Obviously, I mean, talk about something coming full circle. Isaiah Thomas is going to be there. Don't want to forget about talking that. He's expected to address the crowd. So if you're going to be in attendance, national champion, NBA champion, number 11, Isaiah Thomas is going to be there from the 1980 team. So looking forward to that. You can just tell by that alone, there's a change in what's going on over there at Cook Hall. A lot more receptive, I'm assuming. Well, I'm not assuming anything. I can tell already. It's just much more receptive there, but it's going to be, you're probably going to see a lot more players than you've seen over the last few years. from many different more eras. Sean says he was hoping Woody would make it fun again. It was somewhat painful under the no fun staff. Yeah, I think it is going to be fun, but it's going to be fun because you're going to see them win. You're going to see them playing in a manner that you haven't seen for a while. They're going to play a brand of defense that is going to be entertaining, and I think they're going to win a lot more games than they won last year. So I think that in and of itself, and the fact that the players are having fun, is making it fun. But Alec will join us a little later on to talk about an update and what's going on with the recruiting scene, as it's been kind of quiet as the seasons. Everybody's getting their own season starting, whether you're in high school or college. So visits are still going on, but we're getting a little quiet. Tomorrow, Indiana travels to they already traveled to Happy Valley, but tomorrow, Indiana takes on Penn State in Happy Valley. Tomorrow night on ABC, 7:30, getting the big screen, national TV audience. Man, I just don't know how that's going to go. It's not that Indiana cannot win, but it's going to have to be an Indiana team that I haven't seen yet this season. The offense is going to have to play in a manner that is better than they have played thus far, and that's starts with the offensive line. And man, that's a hard place to start, going against a Penn State defensive line that I think they've got a defensive end that is NFL bound. As of course you can imagine, they have quite a few NFL players on that team, but this is other than Iowa, which was a big punch in the mouth to open the season. This one's going to be a game Indiana has to be ready for, because Penn State, their offense is rolling. They're averaging 300 yards through the air, 160 on the ground. Sean Clifford is a veteran. We'll see how it goes, but we'll be talking about that later. We've got plenty. David Eckert will join us from Rivals to talk about that. Zach Osterman as well. How are you guys doing? Beautiful weekend coming up. Hoosier Hysteria tomorrow at 4 in Bloomington at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. And that's so it'll last 90 minutes, so the folks can get out of there and go check out. Be in time for the kickoff. You've got the Colts this weekend taking on the Dolphins, which, man, that's become that's an ugly matchup. High school football, get out and watch a game tonight. If you're able to, of course, Maryland and Iowa tonight. So there's a big game. Hopefully you can get to see that. A lot of people checking in on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Ross, how are you? Michael, the Music Man, how are you doing, brother? Force is in. Luke, Tim, Sean. Where's your favorite team playing tonight? Whether it's 6A, 5A, 4A, tons of great games. Last night was fortunate to go to the College Football National Championship Playoff Host Committee is in Indianapolis, obviously, since the College Football National Championship is being played in Indianapolis this year. But had an event last night. We was up there with those fine folks and Miss Susan, from the president of the host committee, Susan Ballman, and the rest of that entire group. Great group of people, man. They're working hard to put on an incredible event. The work that goes into putting on that national championship game, it's by a group of local people that have been working on that for quite some time. Susan was on with us during Big Ten football media days, and we'll get her back on again. But that building and working and planning has been going on for quite some time, and now it starts. They've had events all fall, tailgating at high school football games, and now they've got events that'll be going on leading up to it. Just all kinds of fun things in and around Indianapolis. So plenty of stuff to do. Also, big game this weekend, Cincinnati and Notre Dame. I'm going to be interested to see that. I just, after watching Cincinnati live, they're not that good. Notre Dame's not that good since they lost their quarterback, so that's going to be interesting. Sean says he doesn't feel that there is a ton of buzz for Hoosier hysteria. He was hoping for 80, 90%. Concerned for lack of buzz. He see potential rain and really impact the event. Could. Michael Niehaus says a huge game in Mount Vernon, undefeated Mount Vernon versus Gibson Southern. Gibson Southern's at the kid, the quarterback that is headed to Purdue, by the way. Ryan says he's headed down to B-Town tonight. New Albany, Jeffersonville down in Southern Indiana. Big rivalry. As I mentioned, Maryland, Iowa. Tonight, I'm looking forward to watching that. That's a dangerous game for Iowa. I think that in the end, they're just too much for Iowa. For Maryland. But, man, it's going to be interesting to see if Maryland can keep Iowa defensively on their toes with that passing game of Tunga Vailoa. Be very interesting to see. Going on the road, but I think Iowa is going to handle that. I really do. Iowa has just been playing really solid football, and I don't expect that to change at all. At all. How's the rest of your day going? Man, the golfing season is about over because the daylight is gone. I noticed the other night, I looked at it was dark and it was much earlier than I thought it was. I'm like, holy cow. Summer has gone, folks. But we already knew that, didn't we? Hey, we got plenty more coming up. Alec Lasley is going to join us from the Hoosier.com. We're going to get an update on Indiana basketball recruiting. What's going on there? It's been a quiet scene here of late. Talk about that. And we'll talk a little bit about the Hoosier hysteria, a little preview for that, which that's going to last 90 minutes total. And that involves both the men's and the women's teams. So there's not a lot that goes on. It's more pomp and circumstance than anything, but it's an opportunity to see the team do some fun things. And it's mainly an opportunity for people to go that don't get the opportunity to do that. It's free. It's not season ticket holders. It's first come, first serve. So this is the opportunity for people who don't get a chance to go to Simon Scott Assembly Hall. A lot of kids maybe don't get an opportunity to go to Simon Scott Assembly Hall. So we'll see. Hey, we'll be back with Alec Lasley from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the fine folks at Southern Stone Restaurant. Whether it's a celebration or just a relaxing night away from the kitchen, check out Southern Stone, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Man, I was tired of hearing myself talk.
I thought you were going to cut to James Franklin, but you never did.
I didn't know we had it.
I told you right before we started.
Dude, I didn't hear that.
And then Alex Robbins just texted me saying, make sure we get him out right before 10 o'clock. I know that's kind of the plan anyway, but just to reiterate that.
Yep. Alec Lasley, make sure he gets on.
He already confirmed with me earlier.
Well, this should be a good day then.
It should.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 freaking clips.
Oh, here he is.
Mr. Patagonia.
How's it going?
Are you wearing a Patagonia?
Just the hat, not the pullover.
Not the whole uniform.
Nope, not today.
What's new in recruiting, man? So you haven't been on for like a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah, biggest thing is some stuff with Noah Clowney.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he ended up taking that Alabama visit, so things are kind of in flux right now with that.
Wow, that's really?
Yeah, there's a little confusion over either why he did or why he didn't end up taking it. Someone told me he was sick. Another person said they weren't sure why he didn't get there, but they were 100% sure he wasn't there. And I mean, that would make a lot of sense if you follow him on social media, because he has not posted a single thing while he was supposed to be there or after it, and he did that for every other visit. So I think there's still a lot, since obviously it just happened. There's still a lot of confusion on whether or not he's going to try to get back to Bama for a visit, or whether he's just going to kind of move forward with those three schools. But that's the biggest thing. And then obviously Hoosier Hysteria coming up, tons of guys going to be on campus for that tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then obviously IU Media Day was whatever, Monday. Yeah. So
Big Ten
All right,
Media
here we
Day
go.
coming up next week.
Few seconds left.
FF, banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking and all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Alec Lasley joining me from thehoosier.com to get you updated on some recruiting notes. We haven't brought to you for a little bit, but there hasn't been a lot going on. It's been kind of quiet, Alec, on the recruiting scene. But, of course, one name does stand out for a lot of people, and they've been wondering since Noah Clowney visited Indiana. There hasn't been a lot of information come out about that and about him since.
Yeah, he's obviously the biggest name, the top name for Indiana in any class moving forward. He had visited 3 out of the 4 schools. He was supposed to visit Alabama this past weekend. There was some confusion right after that visit was supposedly happening, that he was or wasn't there. It does not sound like he did take that visit. So Alabama's trying to either get him back on campus or trying to figure out a way to at least see him before he ends up making a decision. There's still a lot of moving pieces with that, if he's going to take visits anywhere else, if he's not. But as of now, from what I've been told, it's just kind of sitting in it and see kind of what happens. If he does take another visit to Alabama, or at least take that rescheduled visit, things are going to be pushed back decision-wise. He was supposed to make his decision around probably 2 weeks after he had finished his Alabama visit. So obviously, if he's going to be pushing that back till, mid-October at this point, then we probably won't see a decision until maybe early November. Either way, he's still, from what I've been told, set on signing early. So I don't think there's any confusion with that. I think it's just whether or not he's going to get on campus to Alabama and whether or not he's going to visit any other schools in that top 4 before he ends up making that final choice.
Alabama seemed to be a school that kind of was at the top. Maybe not saying that they were at the top alone, but they were definitely considered to be high on his list. But it doesn't sound that way even if you're sick, if you miss a visit, it would seem like you would make it known that, yeah, we're going to reschedule this. And without that effort being made, it sounds like, if I go there, go there. If I don't, I don't, as far as a visit. And that sounds...
Yeah, I think Alabama was a dark horse in this recruitment with those top 4 schools. I don't necessarily know if they even going into this visit or at any point in his recruitment, had a leg up on both Indiana and Virginia Tech. I think those two have been the two teams to beat for the longest time and are continuing to kind of keep that kind of main point of contact in that recruitment. So I think those are the two schools that have always been out in front out of anyone. Those were the two visits that he felt kind of most comfortable on. And I think those are going to be the two that he's going to end up making a decision from. So I think he looks at that and the fact that Alabama is continuing to push for other big men, not just, guards. Obviously they got a couple big time commits over the past couple of weeks, but the biggest thing is they're continuing to push for other big men, other forwards, other perimeter players that you could kind of see would be interchangeable with Noah Clowney. Obviously Indiana's not doing that. It's either Noah Clowney or the transfer portal at this point to end the 2022 class. And so I think you can see the priority, and not so much just the want, but the need that both Indiana and Virginia Tech have for Noah Clowney, as opposed to an Alabama that still kind of has, 2, 3, 4 different options at that position and in that recruiting class.
And I would think with Mike Woodson and Noah Clowney would look at Mike Woodson as a guy that someone who knows the path of what he is seeking, the exact path that he is seeking.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. Not only was it system and scheme that Mike Woodson ended up showing him when he was on campus at Indiana, but it was, hey, you've been to the NBA, you've played at Indiana, you kind of know how to get there, you know the right path, and you know how to push the right players. And I think the bigger thing was really seeing how Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis have already developed since the end of last season. Obviously, a lot of fans weren't able to see exactly what they've progressed on and what they've been able to do down in the Bahamas. But, we've heard from Mike Woodson, we've heard from all the players how much both of those forwards have progressed in their development in just such a short period of time. So as a forward, who has a lot of skill and a lot of athleticism, you look at that development in 3-4 months and you think, hey, what can this coach actually do for me in a full year, or even 2 years to get me to obviously where I want to be, and that's playing at the next level.
Another thing of note, earlier in the week at the media day, it was mentioned Indiana's going to play 2 scrimmages, one against Cincinnati and the other against an opponent in Louisville. And Rick Bozich, who is on with us each week, said, "Oh, he didn't realize that." And he's like, he went to dig it, and he's hearing that that's going to end up being Belmont.
Yeah,
team out of Nashville, which makes sense. Louisville's right in the middle between there, so kind of away from prying eyes, I guess, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you look at those 2 quote unquote secret scrimmages that are never secret once we get to this time of year. But you look at those 2, and I think those are 2 definitely really, really talented teams. And they're teams that will push Indiana. And I think that's the biggest thing that Mike Woodson's been trying to do since he's taken over the job. He knows that if you're going to end up winning Big Ten championships and national championships, you're going to have to play the best teams. You're going to have to beat the best teams. But you're going to be able to really kind of figure out who you are very early on if you play these teams very early on in your schedules. Obviously, they did that with their Bahamas trip, playing a very, very talented professional team from Serbia, and then you come back and you play a Cincinnati team who very much in a similar situation as Indiana. Obviously, a new coach, a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, a lot of recruiting wins early on in Wes Miller's short tenure there at Cincinnati, and then Belmont, a team that always is in the NCAA tournament and tends to always kind of get one of those early tournament knockoffs and make it at least to the round of 32 and beat a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team or anything like that, just based off of their style of play. And that's shoot the ball a lot, have one big man, have four around one, and be able to utilize some of those skill sets that especially the Big Ten hasn't really been able to guard over the past couple of seasons in the NCAA tournament. So I think it's great. We had heard of Cincinnati probably about a little over a month ago. as at least one of those. But yeah, obviously Belmont being the second, if that comes to fruition, is obviously a very, very good second exhibition that Indiana is going to have.
Well, Belmont's one of those teams that always plays with a chip on her shoulder. When they play a team like Indiana, you see them. You don't usually see them until the NCAA tournament comes around. And this is going to be that kind of an atmosphere for them, I think. You get that opportunity, and they know that the secret scrimmage is not going to be secret and that it's going to come out. So they'd like for it to come out that they gave Indiana hell. They gave them all they could take. So that would be an interesting matchup. But after Indiana played so well against that Mega BC team, I'm like, man, I was really surprised that they played that well that early, being a group that was so disjointed. But they've had another 6 weeks since then, so they are really being coached in every manner imaginable right now. So this team is going to come out firing, and Mike Woodson, starting the Mike Woodson era, how special it's going to be for him. Not it'll be special for him at Hoosier Hysteria, but when they start to play, man, he means it. He's just a no BS kind of guy, and you can just get that from his persona and the video clips you see of him. He's in there teaching, and I think that is going to be the difference for this team, that they're going to be able to learn a lot more, and they're going to see a lot more success because of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing that you can take away now from his first 4 months, 3.5 months on the job is really his ability to not only feel comfortable in this setting. Obviously, being the head coach at Indiana, not a lot of coaches can really feel comfortable at that type of school, just like in North Carolina, like at Duke. It's not just any person's job. And I think Indiana's kind of found that out over the past few coaches, that one, it needs to be from someone in the family, but it also needs to be someone who has some sort of resume that knows what it's like to play at the highest level, coach at the highest level, and know the standards and expectations of what it means to be an Indiana basketball player, but also the coach at Indiana. And, you heard it from this past week and throughout the entire summer that he has one goal, and that's to get Indiana back to playing against the top competition, not only, but beating the top competition, and then being one of those teams that goes out and is expected to win a Big Ten title every single year, and then be in the conversation to make it to a Final Four and win a national championship every year, because those were the expectations that he grew up knowing about. Those were the expectations and the standards that when he was at Indiana, he knew about. And then even when he made it into the NBA, those were still those standards and expectations that Indiana had all throughout Bob Knight's tenure that has been lost over the last 20 years. And he's the one guy, I think, that knows everything about Indiana and how to actually not only build a program, but know those standards. But like I said, just feel on Bloomington and being in kind of that shadow of Bob Knight and trying to lift this team out of the past 20 years that have been obviously very dark for Indiana basketball. So he's definitely the right guy for the job, as we've seen. And I think everyone now feels even more comfortable heading into this season that not only he was the right guy to lift them out of this, but take them to the next step. So, we're just a short month away from tip-off and really starting that tenure.
Yeah, and he's taking pride, and basically from what you just said back, he's just taking pride in being the coach at Indiana, first of all, and taking pride in bringing back those things you just spoke of. I mean, he talked about telling them to look at the banners every day, and I think that is something that just wasn't instilled before. Where they were was not instilled, and it matters. The Indiana-Purdue game, it matters. It is a different game. It's just like when you're in high school. I mean, you have rivals. Those games matter. They mattered more. They meant more. Jeffersonville's playing New Albany in football tonight down in Southern Indiana. That just means more. When they just do. And when you don't do that.
The biggest thing, and just to kind of piggyback on that, with Trace Jackson Davis when he spoke on Monday at IU's media day. He said that he didn't really fully understand all of the tradition of IU basketball until Mike Woodson came in. And I don't know how, as an in-state kid, obviously of Indiana growing up, but as a coach, I don't know how you're not able to bring that every day to a team. And then when you say, oh, I didn't really understand the full length and the full standards of Indiana basketball until this new coach came in. That was so interesting to me that he just did not. Maybe he's saying that. Maybe he didn't know some of the details that obviously no one knows about, unless you actually played at that time. But that was just a very telling statement to me as well. That again, Mike Woodson knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the best out of these players, but he knows how to get these players to respond to playing at Indiana and expecting to be the top team in the Big Ten, regardless of what they've done over the past 5, 10, 15 seasons.
What do you think I complained about for the last 2 years? It was just amazing. It was just, it was, but looking for the enjoyment of that, but coming up. But let's see, we're about to want to make sure we don't go. All right, what's coming up next that the people need to look at? You've got a ton of stuff at thehoosier.com. We got tomorrow's preview with for Indiana and Penn State in there, but lots of content up over there.
Yep, and then obviously the big thing, Hoosier Hysteria this weekend. Loaded recruiting event. You'll have guys like Jalen Hood-Schifino's going to be there. CJ Gunn's going to be there. So you have kind of your two staple class of 2022 recruits outside of Caleb Banks. And then you guys have Bloomington North forward 2023 guy, JQ Roberts. He's been on campus now a few times. This will be his third unofficial visit. Doesn't have an offer yet, but he's a guy to continue to watch. Locals, Joey Hart, Joey Brown as well. So I think in total there's going to be close to 10 recruits there, either commits or recruits. So we'll have a full list up on the site later on today, going into tomorrow. But obviously, huge recruiting event for Indiana, and no better way to do that than obviously bring in Isaiah Thomas, who's going to end up be speaking at the event as well. So it's going to be like I said, great recruiting event, but great way for fans to actually see Mike Woodson in action live and see all the excitement around this team just continue to build.
And that's another thing, bringing in someone like Isaiah Thomas. And I mentioned earlier in the show before you joined us, I expect to see that a lot more. The players have wanted to be a part of this for a while, but there's been this chasm because of the basically shutting out Bob Knight people. And that dam is broken. And I think that is a major piece of bringing it all back together. And I think everybody's going to see that soon, but absolutely. What's a couple of the biggest names that you're recruiting wise that will be there? Not that have already signed, like Jalen Hood or CJ. Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be more under the radar 2023 guys. I think kind of the biggest name I would put up there would be JQ Roberts and Joey Hart. Those are probably the two bigger ones as of now. There's still going to be a couple more that are kind of making final plans to that. Not 100% sure if Gabe Cupps is going to be there, but he was a name that's been on campus twice, a name that could end up showing up. Obviously an Ohio kid, so not too far away for that drive down. So I would keep an eye on that if he doesn't in fact show up. But outside of that, yeah, a lot of good in-state kids going to be there and kind of building on that class of 2023 that Indiana has a leg up on in multiple recruitments as of now.
I'm making Ed hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, said it's the name on the uniform, Indiana. Kind of makes me laugh a little bit because of a quote that Mike Woodson said this week. He said, the only thing that changes is the name on the back of the jerseys. And I just kind of chuckled at that. But I guarantee you, I would be curious as to what his thoughts are about that.
Yeah, maybe that's the next big change, right? Baby steps. They had the refresh in the uniform. Maybe the year after we'll see something different, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, people really pay attention to those uniforms, man. They really just the piping and whether it's different. I'm like, man, I don't really. That doesn't mean that big of a deal to me personally, but some people it means a lot to.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, brother. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate you joining us. Make sure you give Alec a follow and go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of all things coming up, Hoosier Hysteria, Indiana, Penn State, and all that, man. Go out and have a great day.
All right. I appreciate it, Jim. Talk to you later, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Hey, we got plenty more coming up. Next, Alex Robbins, an attorney, is going to join us to talk about how the National Labor Relations Board memo will affect athletes, could potentially affect college sports with the ability to unionize. Zach Osterman is going to join us, Bob Kravitz, and David Eckert from Penn State Rivals as well. We got a loaded lineup. We're back with it, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. If you're in the market for a new Honda, Andy Moore Honda has the deals for you. You can get a brand new 2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot, all the trim, 0% APR financing for 48 months, $0 down. Or how about a new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Go see the guys at Andy Moore Honda. Let them know you heard it here on Indiana Sports Beat, and we'll get you a pair of Indiana basketball tickets. We're back with Alex Robbins right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant. Whether you're looking...
Do you have a AAA?
No, I don't have that. I'll have them by Monday.
Alex,
how we doing?
What's up, man?
Oh, just living the dream.
Tell me about it. Another day, another 25 cents. You going out to any of the festivities this weekend?
I thought about it. I thought about going to Hoosier Hysteria, but I don't want to wear a mask for that long just to watch a scrimmage and a dunk contest, I'd like to see it, especially the things that you read and hear coming out of, all their workouts, but I'd rather sit at home and catch all of Georgia and Arkansas and get ready for the football team to get their brains beat in on Saturday night.
That's a great point. I didn't think about wondering how much the mask is going to affect attendance.
Yeah, I don't know. And I would assume the masks are going to be in place in Bloomington and on campus. I would think.
It's pretty funny though. This time around in Monroe County, it's been very lax.
Yeah.
Before, oh man, you walk into some place, did you put your mask on, please? Blah, blah, blah. Now,
yeah.
But it will be that way to Assembly Hall, I promise you.
Yeah, I'm going to.
At least while you come in.
Sorry.
At least once you come in, I think. I guarantee you, once people get in there, man, dude, they're going to be taking their mask off. How are you going to police that?
You can't unless you're just going to kick everybody out that has it down, and that's too hard. I'm going to opening night at the auditorium on Tuesday night, and got an email about wearing a mask, and I'm interested to see how tightly they enforce it with, lights drawn down, and see if they've got people walking around or whatever.
They won't be. I really think that I think it's laxed. They have to say it because it's a law right now.
Yeah. This memo, by the way, is a mess.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Friday. Make sure you go visit our friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry, if you're in the Sellersburg area in Southern Indiana, get that championship smile. See Dr. J. Alex Robbins, attorney, joining us now. Alex, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys all doing?
Good. Alex joins us whenever we have a question involving sports and collegiate athletics, and the National Labor Relations Board memo that came out a day or so ago was really shaking things up a bit. But right before we came out of the break, Alex said, man, this thing's a mess.
It is. I mean, let's start here. You know, we talked, I think the last time we talked was right after the Alston decision came down. And we talked about how, you know, the Supreme Court limited these things to, you know, name, image, and likeness uses, and then, you know, the educational benefits that were already there. We talked about, though, the things that would come next, and, you know, the next steps that would need to take to what everybody's, you know, either goal or fear is, depending on, you know, who you are and what side of the issue you come down on, which is these paid players being just flat out paid. And this was one of the big steps that we talked about. We specifically talked about when the Northwestern football team tried to organize in 2015. And the memo actually addresses that case specifically and gives reasons why this general counsel thinks that the National Labor Relations Board messed up back in 2015 or 2017 when they made the decision. So it's messy because people are in a panic, but it really doesn't do anything off the top. It's not binding precedent. It doesn't set laws, but there are things in there that we can read into that really indicate that government entity is going to try to you know, push the envelope here and get us to a place where these and they don't even want to call them student athletes anymore, where these I think they call them players at academic institutions have rights under the National Labor Rights Act,
which opens up a whole different can of worms, a couple cans of worms, actually, a number of them. I mean, now you're going to have workers' comp if they are playing and get hurt, maybe. What if they endure a career-ending injury? There's just so many questions that are going to come up now.
Yeah. And, you know, the memo really doesn't even get into, you know, doesn't even get in depth into those kinds of things. Workers' comp being, you know, a great example of something that may not be a primary thought here, but would certainly be a humongous collateral, you know, consequence. In short, I think what's important to know about this is a few things. You know, one, this memo essentially in its entirety has been issued before. In January of 2017, Richard Griffin, who was the general counsel for the NLRB at that point, issued essentially the same memo. And I think it's fair to say that memo didn't really change anything, right? You know, there's been nothing from the beginning of 2017 to now that has changed as far as considering the players to be employees, outside of what Alston has done for them, you know, with regards to name, image, and likeness. Now, part of that might be because the guy that succeeded Richard Griffin rescinded that memo in December of 2017. So it was only out there for about 11 months. But this is not a new position for general counsel for the NLRB to take. The other thing that's important on this, you know, if you're somebody who says, "Hey, I don't want the players being paid," you know, I want amateurism to still exist, you know, in some way in my college sports. The other thing to take away is that this is not binding precedent. It is not law, and it does not mean that, you know, if Indiana's basketball players wanted to organize today and petitioned the NLRB for, you know, for representation like the Northwestern football players did, that it's going to be granted. The general counsel doesn't have a vote, so you know, she doesn't have, you know, any kind of power to implement new policies that would allow student athletes to organize. But what it does is it tells those voting members, I believe there are 5 of them, that their attorney, the attorney for the entity, says this is what the law should be. And so where this is really going to have an effect is in the powers that, with the powers that general counsel has, her ability to affect change from her position. She oversees NLRB investigations. She issues complaints. If courts are involved or need to be involved, she has the power to petition for injunctions on behalf of people who are seeking protection from the National Labor Rights Act. And she's the leading advocate to the board's voting members. So while the memo itself doesn't change anything as far as the way things function today, it's important to know that she does have a lot of power to wield. And she finishes up, I've got the memo right here. She finishes by saying, I fully expect that this memo will notify the public, especially players at academic institutions, colleges and universities, athletic conferences, and the NCAA, that I will be taking that legal position in future investigations and litigation under the Labor Relations Act. So she's saying, come on, I'm ready to fight this with you, and we'll see if we can get 3 out of 5 people on the board to change their vote and change this whole what I think she believes is just an illegal scheme that the NCAA and its members run.
And if that comes to fruition, I mentioned the things like that I talked about, but there's many more. What are some of the things that we're not thinking of that, if that comes to pass, would bring with it?
Well, so there are 3 main rights that you want to think of when you're talking about what the National Labor Rights Act does. It gives anybody who's deemed an employee, and briefly, let's talk about this. There are exemptions to people that are considered employees for purposes of the act, right? So people who are independent contractors are not protected under the act. People who are supervisors in certain capacities are not protected under the act. So there are these exemptions, and if I recall correctly, that's part of why the board didn't didn't protect and support the Northwestern football players in their efforts to unionize. But if they're deemed to be employees, which is really the hurdle to clear, right? And that's what the memo goes into. She talks about why they're employees and deserve these protections, and that's what she'll be arguing the first time a group of players brings this up to her in front of the board. But if they are deemed to be employees, they get 3 big protections. They get union security, so they get collective bargaining, organizing, anything that the men and women at the Central Foundry or a local stone mill or anything like that. The same kind of protections that they get, every couple years or however long to bargain and the things that come along with that. The second is the right to strike, and the third is the right to picket. And so, I think in a situation where you've got guys that, their futures are dependent on what they're doing here. You think about somebody like a Trace Jackson Davis, who's, trying to go to the NBA, or, name one of, 10 guys on the football roster who think they have a future in the NFL. For guys like that, the protections that come, the benefits that come from being named an employee, not going to be, probably worth striking and picketing and not having that extra film and not having, all those extra nights for scouts to watch and put good things down on tape. But you think about, a school like, like to take Belmont basketball or something, a team that's, typically pretty good, but they've got to win their conference tournament generally to get into the dance, and nobody on that roster really is going to the NBA. Maybe a school like that says, hey, we bring in TV revenue for you in the conference. We bring in ticket revenue, and we're not getting our fair share, and we're not going to play tonight, or we're not going to play, next Saturday when it's, bracket busters and we've got the 7 p.m. game on ESPN. It's not. I don't think it's totally out of the question or unforeseeable for those kinds of things to happen and be what kind of disrupts the process.
Which is not at all the intent, I would think, to give them. That's not the protection that this is intended to do. But unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff that comes along with it. That's the bad part. And there are some people that hate this. And I get that, because it is not just change. This is massive change. It's been massive change that has been happening over the last 6 months. You've gone from 0 to 180 in every direction with players and the NCAA. And the NCAA, the power continues to just diminish, as it should have, because they were bogus is what they were doing. But the NCAA is nothing but the universities. The NCAA is an acronym for university presidents, is all
Right.
that is. They're the bosses of that. It's not Mark Emmert. Mark Emmert's just a puppet. I used to rip on him all the time. And finally, I'm like, you know what? It's not him. It's the presidents that are telling him what to do. And he's just taking the hits, which is fine. But now they have to answer the bell, and it's I'm worried that it's going to go too far and become a mess, and it is going to change college athletics. But what about teams like that are just not revenue drawing sports, field hockey and things like that, that have no bearing on? I'm like, man, they're actually a drain on the university that basketball and football pay for.
I'll do you better than that, Jim. Forget, the wrestling program at Indiana, which, may have 5 scholarships to give out to however many 25 guys or whatever. This doesn't say Division I athletes. So, I'm a graduate of Wabash College, and so 95 football players at a school of 900 students are gonna, unionize here. And I think that this is, and this problem has been evident in everything that we talk about, right? With, we've talked about with name, image, and likeness, is you have got to find a way in order for everything for the status quo in the things that really aren't unfair, like Division III athletes not being paid. Okay, I don't think there's anybody who could argue that Division III athletes are bringing in the kind of money for schools that warrant them being paid. But in order for those things to survive and exist, you have got to find a way to pull out men's basketball, football, and maybe women's basketball as your revenue sports, and separate those at the Division I level from everything else. Because this memo, I mean, look, you don't get to be general counsel of the NLRB without being a good lawyer and without, choosing your words wisely. She could have easily put Division I or easily said football and men's basketball, but she didn't. She's classified this as all players at academic institutions. And so, particular, I talk about like Belmont basketball, but is it really hard to believe that some kids at Franklin College might get the idea that they can make some money from, being on the men's basketball team or something like that by unionizing? Because if Indiana basketball can do it, Franklin basketball is going to be able to do it. I think those are questions that are going to be really difficult to have answered unless the NCAA and these players and universities and probably the NLRB at this point can work out some kind of agreement for the revenue sports, and those athletes to get theirs without sinking the entirety of the other, 20 to 25 sports that the NCAA governs at, probably 500 or 600 schools outside of the Power 5 conferences. So, the whole thing is a mess. But again, I'll finish with this. Like we talked about after Alston, the NCAA has known that this stuff was coming down the line since the O'Bannon case started a decade ago. And their inaction and unwillingness to prepare for the future and to kind of evolve with, maybe not with all of society, but with what our elected leaders and appointed officials have decided is the proper way to handle the business of college sports. I mean, there's no one to blame when these things happen other than the NCAA, which is, again, the presidents of the universities, the athletic directors, and Mark Emmert as their puppet. So it's nobody's fault but their own. And I think this is just another indication that they're going to take it on the backside from somebody swatting at them because they didn't get their house in order when they had plenty of opportunity.
Absolutely. Alex Robbins, thank you so much for joining us. If you need an attorney, he's the guy. He's down in Lawrence County, but anywhere you need. What's the business number?
812-583-8356.
Make sure you check it out. Alex, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks. You guys have a good weekend.
You too. Alex Robbins joining us here to talk about student athletes in the future with that. Hey, we've got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us next. We're back with that. Brought to you by AAA Insurance. Hey, we all need insurance, whether it's auto, home, renters, or life insurance. And you need to be insured by someone who cares about you. If you're in the Southwest Indiana, Evansville, or Southern Illinois area, reach out to our friends at AAA Insurance today for your auto, home, life, and renters insurance needs. AAA Insurance at 812-477-9966. That's 812-477-9968. Auto and AAA Auto Insurance. Be covered by someone who cares about you. We're back with Zach right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Thank you, man.
Hey, thank you. Anytime. I'll give you a phone call. I'll wait till Monday, but I'll give you a phone call.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
I did confirm with Zach. He should be on here shortly.
Man, this show's going to just fly by.
It is. Guest after guest after guest.
I like it, but I don't because I feel like I can't catch my breath.
Yeah. Well, it's also good because you don't have any segments by yourself today since you don't have a co-host. Because normally it would be good to probably have a breather if you had someone else to take a breather with. There he is.
Hey, Zach, how are you, brother?
Oh, you're muted, Zach, or I can't hear you. Yeah, you're still your volume's off. Let me check it on my end real quick and see. Yeah, you're on my end. Do you have anything plugged in that you normally don't plug in? Where's the headset you normally use? That's odd. I've never had this happen. Hope he gets back before we get started again.
It's all right.
Well, I'll just say because I don't want to have him. Let's see.
Bandolero.
Let's see. Hello, Zach. Here, try reconnecting. Try reconnecting with that plugged in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in.
Tom's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Yogi's Bar and Grill. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. Man, a big sports weekend ahead of us. All kinds of things happening. Indiana heading to Happy Valley to take on the top 5 Nittany Lions. You've got Hoosier Hysteria before that, men's and women's on both sides. We've got Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Zach, can you hear me? He can't. He can hear us.
He's still having audio issues.
Yeah, we can't hear him right now, so we'll get him fixed up here in a second. But yeah, lots going on, and Zach's got a lot of great stuff out on the Indy Star right now. One of those was about Charles Campbell, the kicker, who 4-4 last week. But that was a situation where, and you heard Kevin talk about it, Brockway, that if he misses one of those kicks, Indiana loses to Western Kentucky. I think he's perfect on the season kicking, but little things like that are going to potentially save Indiana if that can happen. There's no doubt that this is a tough schedule that they're looking at the rest of the year. And they're going to have to continue to improve across the board, but special teams is an area that seems to improve with the exception of giving up some touchdown runs on that situation as we wait for Zach to get back in here. But man, Penn State just has let's listen to James Franklin and what he had to say about Indiana as we wait for Zach to get back in here. But Penn State is just you got a veteran quarterback, and that is just gigantic. Like I said, I think he's averaging over 300 yards a game, and they're averaging 160 on the ground. John, if you've got that James Franklin clip, let's play that.
But our entire focus and energy is on beating Indiana this Saturday, this season. And although previous records, I think are interesting to look at, previous records against certain opponents and all these types of things. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is you have to find a way to beat the team that you are playing this Saturday. When we do our film breakdown, do we look at, especially at this point of the year where it's still fairly early, where you're looking at the most recent games played, and then do you also probably include our game last year? As long as most of the coordinators are the same, do you factor that in? Yes. But for us, we're trying to beat Tom Allen and the Indiana football team for this season and this season alone.
That's mainly in reference to, I think, a lot of people thinking that the revenge factor is going to be such a big deal, and maybe that's something to talk about for a minute. But once that ball is kicked off, that stuff kind of goes out the window, I think. Let's see if Zach, let's see if we can hear you yet. Doggone it. May have to get him on the phone somehow or something. But yeah, that revenge thing, that's nice and all, but that once that ball's kicked off, that goes out the door. Those guys are focused. It's so much going on that's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about all the preparation you've been putting in for the week before that game, all the game planning that has gone on, and the game that is hand. There are guys there that weren't there the year before. So it's a completely a scenario that I just don't believe in that revenge thing unless it's maybe on a smaller level. But football, that's just too hard to carry on from the emotional standpoint. And there's just too much game planning, like I said, and there's too many things that happen during the game that change the course of what's going on. So as Zach continues to try to get on with us, we'll look forward to getting that. But that game kicking off on national TV tomorrow. That's tomorrow night, I should say, 7:30 on ABC. So Indiana getting a rare opportunity to be on the big tube as Hoosier Hysteria will complete before that. I think that should be done around 5:30 or so, I believe, giving you ample time to get out to a spot to find that kickoff tomorrow. But what's going to happen? That's going to be the key. Will Indiana's offense find another gear, another groove? Will the offensive line pick up against one of the tougher lines that they're going to face this year? But of course, they're going to play other teams that are equally tough in Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State. But Penn State is playing really well. They're one of the teams that's 4-0. Already one of the favorites to win the Big Ten East. And that's what's on their mind. They want to win the Big Ten East. They don't care that it's not that they don't care that they lost Indiana last year. That's not what their goals are this year. Their goals are to win the Big Ten East, and that means beating Indiana, period. Whatever that takes. And it has nothing to do with last year. You got to focus on the here and the now, whomever you are. And Indiana has to do the same. They have to take these games one game at a time. And it starts with an extraordinarily tough test in Happy Valley. But we've seen Indiana go in there 2 years ago when there was a crowd and give the Nittany Lions all that they wanted. A game Indiana potentially could have won. Now, do they improve enough to make that this week? I don't know. The spread's got them at 12.5. That's a pretty large spread. So I don't know if Indiana will be able to do that or not. I really don't see that they have the firepower from what I've seen, unless they have made those strides. Penn State is just rolling along, and I don't know that Indiana has the offensive firepower right now to counterbalance that. Zach, I don't think we can hear you yet, or can we? No.
Zach, if you want, go ahead and give Jim a phone call, and we'll just he can put you on speaker, and that way everybody can hear what you're all saying.
Well, yes, that's a great idea. Smart thinking. I'll try to do that as soon as I can while I'm thinking here. But yes, we're having just an issue with Zach, but we'll get him on here in a second. No problem. Wish I'd have thought of that. We'd have solved that problem a lot quicker. Hello, Mr. Zach Osterman.
Hey, sorry about that.
No, that's no big deal. It's the great wave of technology.
I don't know what's going on there.
Well, that's funny. If everything didn't give us problems, we'd have no reason to celebrate it being Friday, right?
I guess so. Though during football season, Friday feels a little bit like Saturday, and Saturday feels a little bit like Monday sometimes.
And a weekend. This is going to be an extraordinarily busy weekend, of course, for Indiana, with all the things going on, being on the road in football. You've got Hoosier Hysteria. Are you going to Happy Valley, or because I know there has to be a split there between you and John?
Yeah, I'm staying closer to home. So Dustin will be in Happy Valley, and I'll be here, and Matt Cohen will be at Hoosier Hysteria for us. I've actually got a memorial service to attend on Saturday, so for a friend who died last year, we just were never really able to have that sort of celebration. So.
Yeah, a busy day coming for Indiana. For Indiana basketball, it's just an introduction, but it's a big introduction for Mike Woodson. This has got to be one of the proudest moments in his life, probably. Just when he walks onto that court and gets that crowd adulation, the lights, and all of that. I mean, he's done that as a player, but that's been a long time ago. And to do that as a coach is something that seems like he's dreamed of doing for a while.
It's interesting because I think it's also maybe kind of not been mentioned a lot. At least I haven't seen it mentioned a lot.
Jim, point him at the mic.
First time we're going to see fans back in Assembly Hall in almost 2 years. So it's both first look for a lot of those people at sort of Mike Woodson's of Indiana, if you want to call it that. And as you said, it's Mike Woodson's kind of, I don't know what the word would be, welcoming back, or I don't think it's really returned home. He's been in Assembly Hall, before, but obviously in this role, as you point out, is different. But I think that it's also kind of the fact that this will be the first time people can be in Assembly Hall in a really long time, and that's that is kind of strange to think about. And again, I feel like it sort of happened to us last year when we spent so much time talking about how football would work with no fans, testing, COVID, and all that stuff. And then suddenly basketball season arrived, and everybody was like, "Oh, wait, we need to take care of that too." And I feel like college basketball is kind of hitting us in a similar way this year, at least right now. But it's it's going to be interesting. It's also because the other part of it is, I know not everyone was there, but some people have already seen this team. So it's kind of going to be interesting to see what the fan reaction is. Obviously you don't want to draw too many conclusions from something like Hoosier hysteria. It's still just ultimately kind of a pep rally. Indiana will almost certainly have practiced beforehand, as they often do, because you tend to have to use, unless the rules have changed, if you're going to have, you have to count this as one of your preseason practice days. So unless the rules have changed, they have to count it anyway. So they'll go ahead and use it that way. And so there's kind of a lot of layers to it, but at the same time, it also, in a way, strangely, doesn't feel like as big of a deal as maybe it would in seasons past, I should say.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and especially with the fact that you've got Mike Woodson coming in and all the newness, and it's still, and I'm wondering, is that just COVID hangover, and how much is the fact that you have to wear a mask going to affect people going to Assembly Hall?
I mean, I would hope. I hope not too much, frankly, and I think you'll. I mean, listen, I suspect that. I suspect that we will see a lot of fans there, and that there will be a lot of people that are, just basically, hankering to be back in that building. And that doesn't mean that we're not still going to see, less than impressive crowds for, for the likes of, I don't know who's on the schedule that on Merrimack or somebody like that compared to St. John's. But I think there's going to be a lot more maybe than we appreciate right now, of people just sort of saying, "Hey, it feels good to be back." And again, I think college football can just sort of it can swallow everything else up in its gravitational pull, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it did last year when we were thinking about how are we going to make all this work, and then all of a sudden we got to
the end of the season there.
We got to the beginning of basketball season, and everyone was like, "Whoa, how are we going to make it work for basketball?" You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like, why did this sneak up on us? Because it felt like it did, but it was like, well, why? We knew this was coming. And I think that in the sort of, for lack of a better term, revelry around being able to get football back, maybe we've forgotten that we're going to get basketball back fairly soon as well. And so I think it's going to be, especially at a place like Indiana, I I would be surprised if mandating masks and things like that really makes an enormous difference. I think people are just going to want to be back in there, frankly.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, that's one of the passions for a lot of Hoosier fans, so they're looking forward to that. Skipping over to football, Indiana on the road at Happy Valley this weekend, a tough assignment. Penn State is just playing really, really well, and they look good. They've got Sean Clifford, who's a veteran quarterback, and that says a lot when you have a veteran quarterback, but they've got a lot more than that as well. They've got a solid defense, averaging 300 yards a game through the air, 160 on the ground, balanced attack, and a bunch of 100,000 rabid Penn State fans. It's going to be a tough ask for Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have kind of asked me this week, how does Indiana get right? How does Indiana, go to Penn State and maybe start feeling like they're turning their season around? And I've said, listen, Indiana could play well in this game and still lose. I mean, they could play well in this game and still lose by a couple scores. I don't know if pound for pound there is a tougher road environment than, Happy Valley on a Saturday night in the Big Ten, just because of what that means to that fan base and what we've seen down the years. And I know that, just by the nature of kind of the established rivalries of the conference, if it was Michigan or Ohio State, it might feel a little different for Penn State fans, but I still think it's going to be sold out and raucous and loud. And it kind of comes back to something we all said in the preseason, which I think was easy for fans to kind of swallow hypothetically, and maybe it's been a little bit more difficult to process as it's played out literally. We all said in the preseason Indiana could play well in these first 5 weeks and still wind up 2-3. And now I think part of what has alarmed IU fans is that Indiana has at times not played well. And obviously in the Iowa game in particular played very, very badly. But I also just think that there's, you sort of, when you're talking to IU fans, you say, boy, if we start 2-3, I just, what's going to happen to the season? And it's sort of like, well, this was always a possibility, you could, this is what happens when you face 3 top 10 teams in the first 5 weeks of your season. And I think the key for Indiana is win or lose, if they can be competitive, stay competitive, and feel like they took more steps forward from that Western Kentucky game, which I didn't think was perfect by any means, but it sort of felt like, and I wrote this, Indiana had to start somewhere. They were really reeling after those 2 early losses. They had to start kind of collecting themselves somewhere along the way. And it really needed to be Western Kentucky, because if they lost that game, the season could enter sort of a tailspin. They did. If anything, I think that the final score flattered Western a little bit, frankly. But that's still just a first step forward. Indiana's got to follow that up, and win or lose, I think that Indiana needs to feel like it is coming out of this weekend with basically having taken more of those positive steps and put more of that sort of improvement on film that they can lean back on and say, hey, win or lose, this is going to stand us in good stead for the games to come. And I think that's just, I think Indiana's got to go 2-2 this month. And, Penn State Saturday night doesn't have to be one of the 2 wins, but they do need to feel like things that happen in that Penn State game are part of basically this team improving to get future wins, essentially.
Yeah, it's a tough way to go the rest of the year, and so they can use this to catapult through that. Zach, I cannot thank you enough as always, man. I hope you have a good weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about the technical difficulties there at the beginning.
Par for the course, baby. That's just how our life lives, man. Enjoy the day, my friend.
Absolutely, you too.
Thank you. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us. We got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. The great Bob Kravitz will join us next. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant. Whether you're looking for
Sorry, we were running a bit behind, Bob. Of
It's
course,
okay.
I feel like you've been getting the bane of all of the issues this week, Bob.
Yeah, it's all right. I got to work, so anytime I can push it off is a good thing. I really don't want to transcribe 2 hours of tapes.
I went out to last night. The college football host committee had a thing up there in Indy. Thought you may be there.
No. My invitation got lost in the mail.
You didn't go to Big Ten Media Days. That's right.
Well, Big Ten Media Day is coming up.
Next
Thursday,
week.
Friday? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to that for sure.
How's it going, man?
Good. I'm gonna get a lot of work done today. Try to get a quick 9 in late this afternoon, and head down to Fort Lauderdale for the Colts game tomorrow.
Nice.
And Jim, this will be a bit shorter of a segment to make up for time, just to let you know, because then we got David Eckert at 10:40.
Yeah.
This is our first day, Bob, of a loaded schedule in a long time, so it's been
No problem.
very tight windows.
I'm happy
today.
to go shorter. I'm happy to go shorter. Believe me.
We're happy to have you. Period.
No problem.
Especially since we've had to reschedule you twice now this week.
No worries.
How's your car doing?
For $1,149, much better. I wish IU would pick up the tab, but they're not going to. I mean, it's their field with the giant hole in it that my car dove into and caused all that damage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was at IU. Somebody had taken the grate off of like a sewer hole of some sort, and my car dove in there and it broke off a bunch of pieces and cost me $1,140 to repair.
That actually is their responsibility.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I let them know that I was not happy and that it cost me a lot. And the email was, well, we'll look into the hole. I'm like, fuck the hole. Pay my tab here.
Open a checkbook.
All right, here we go.
A month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. I am. I'm getting to talk to Bob Kravitz.
Lucky you.
That's right, man. You've been a busy week. Pacers had media day on Monday. You got Colts going to Miami.
Yeah, it's everything's starting up again, so it's great. Keeps me off the streets and the golf courses to some degree. But yeah, we got the Colts going down to Miami to take on Jacoby Brissett. And if they lose that game, then yes, go ahead and panic, because that's a game they cannot lose.
Yeah, first of all, the irony of going to Miami and playing against Jacoby Brissett is kind of funny, especially that the Colts are in dire need of a quarterback at the moment.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, what's his face? Wentz. He probably, if they had a decent backup last week, I would not have played him. I thought he just couldn't move. He was a sitting duck back there. Supposedly, he's in much better shape going forward into this game Sunday in Miami. So if he's got a little mobility, that will make a big difference, especially with an offensive line that's really struggled in ways we never would have imagined.
Yeah, I was talking to, I think it was Matt Taylor this week. I was talking, it's the Colts and the Hoosiers are having kind of similar issues on offense, not quite at quarterback, but similar quarterback issues and offensive line issues. And it's been the bane of both of their problems this year.
Well, the big problem with the Colts is their offensive linemen. You remember 2 years ago, every single guy played every single snap. Well, that's not been the case this year. You've had Kelly, who's been out. Quentin's been out. He's out now. Braden Smith has been in and out. He's out now. Glowinski's been solid, but then you look at Fisher's just coming off of Achilles heel surgery. Your right tackle is God knows who. I mean, it's been Julian Davenport. He can't play. So it's just been kind of a cluster for them early on. I truly do believe, though, that once they do get together again, they'll be okay. But they better get it done like now. Now would be a good time.
Yeah, going 0-4 is basically the wooden stake through the heart, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part now their schedule gets really easy, supposedly, coming up after this game and the Baltimore game, and Tennessee's schedule gets brutal the way the Colts' schedule was brutal early. And they don't strike me as a team that's going to run away with the division either. So, look, if the Colts can get one victory or two victories out of this first five, I think they're going to be just fine. I still think the raw material is there. They just got to, get better health, and you can't lose any of your star players because of COVID contacts or anything like that. That's another issue.
Absolutely. I mentioned Pacers Media Day at the top of the week. I'm sure you were out there for that.
I was, and it's essentially the same team coming back. You don't have Doug McDermott anymore. He left in free agency. And good for him. I mean, he had a career year, and go make your money, young man. But they have basically the same team coming back. My belief, and I could be wrong, my belief is that they're going to go into the season trying to make Miles Turner and Domas Sabonis work. And if it doesn't work the way they want, look, they're loaded with big men. They've got Isaiah Jackson, the rookie, who's really been impressive. Goga Bitadze, who's lost a lot of weight, looks really good this year and started to show some signs last year of being a decent player. So I think that he's a guy that they can move. They can move Turner and bring in somebody else at another position, maybe another wing defender, or whatever it might be. But I think they're going to start the season where they are, and then see how things progress, and then make a decision on Turner.
Karis LeVert with that stress fracture in his back. What's the timetable for his return?
They say it shouldn't be too long, but we've heard that about various athletes over the years. They said it's a stress fracture. It's nothing major. I was not at practice yesterday, so I don't know if there was an update. But from what I've heard from Carlisle, they seem to think that this is going to be a short-term issue. I hope they're right, because that kid's been through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and he really was a spark for them last season, it seemed, when he came in.
Oh, absolutely. Look, he's a guy who rolls out of bed and scores 20 points. I thought he never quite had his legs under him last year after he came back from the kidney surgery. And he still played well. But I think he could be not a star, but one of the better players in the league, when healthy. And, once he gets through this back issue, you hope that that's it. He should be a really important player for them, and will determine how far they go.
I'm looking at Indiana. They have no superstar on this team. I'm trying to think of a team that's better than, if you say Indiana's like the 8th or 9th team in the conference, who's better than they are that also does not have a superstar?
You're talking football?
No, Indiana Pacers.
Or okay. What other? Oh, you talking what other NBA team?
Yeah, because there's no superstar.
There's
on
no
this team
superstar.
whatsoever.
No. If you want to go back and ask when's the last time a team without a megastar won a championship? I'd have to go back to those days of the Detroit Pistons, shortly after Rick left and Larry Brown took over. Those teams, I mean, they had Chauncey Billups, they had Rip Hamilton, they had Ben Wallace, they had Rasheed Wallace, one of our favorite people ever. But they didn't have any superstars, but they just were a good team. And I think that that's what they're trying to build. That's what they have to build in Indiana, because look, the Pacers are not going to get big time free agents. People are not clamoring to play here, but I think they can put together a really good competitive team that can go deep in the playoffs. We've seen it, with previous Pacers teams, with the Paul George Pacers and with the Roy Hibbert Pacers and all those kinds of guys. So I think you can be really, really good. Can they win a championship? That's going to be a hard sell because they don't have that mega star that you seem to need to win a championship in the NBA.
Yeah, the Eli and Peyton show, man. It's been awesome to watch, but they're taking a hiatus and they're not doing the Colts game.
Well, that was part of the contract. The part of the contract was that he wouldn't do any Colts or Broncos games. So that has nothing to do. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. That has nothing to do with the Colts being so bad that they don't want to do the game. That's part of the contract. And I think Eli is not doing any Giants games.
Right.
So I think that's all part of the contract.
Because Peyton will pick on plays, man. He
yeah.
calls them out.
Oh, he does. I mean, I thought he was going to blow a gasket when Mike McCarthy forgot that the right thing to do would be to call a timeout at the end of the half. Now, I'm sitting there in front of my TV. I'm like, what are you doing? Or what are you not doing? You got to call a timeout, for crying out loud. And he never did. And Peyton, along with everybody else, called him out.
It's been highly entertaining watching those guys. I hate that it's not going to be on.
Yeah, I'd like to know their feelings about the Colts, but I'm really looking forward to mid-November when the Hard Knocks starts. This is either going to be the most dreadful Hard Knocks ever, if they're like 0-5 or 1-6 or whatever, or it could be a great story of a team that started out terrible and found its footing and went on to come back and go 10-7 or whatever and make the playoffs. So this could be really awful, or it could be great TV, great theater.
I know you've got a piece up on the Pacers right now from Media Days, as well as the Colts. Anything else you got coming up that people need to know about from The Athletic?
Well, I'm Mike Strawn, the wide receiver for the Colts. His parents are coming in from the Bahamas this weekend to see Mike Strawn play for the first time in his life. They never saw him play in high school, never saw him play in college because he was always in the States and they were in the Bahamas and they didn't have the money to come out and see him. So they'll be at Hard Rock Stadium or whatever they call it now. And so I'm doing a piece on them. I'm talking to them this afternoon. Be on top of everything else. And I'm working on a really long story about the life and times of Jay Mariotti. Do you remember him?
Yeah, that's been I haven't heard that name in forever.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't want to say a fall from grace, but look, this guy was one of the biggest sports celebrities in the country, not just Chicago, but in the country. He was at the very top, and then he got busted for domestic violence, and his career kind of went sideways. He moved out to the West Coast. So anyway, we're getting together when he's in Chicago in a couple of weeks, and I think that could be a really fascinating story about a guy who was the most polarizing columnist who's probably ever come through, Chicago or really just about any city. I can be strident at times. I could throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball with my column. This guy did it every day, and he was unbelievable. But it also made him despised by a lot of people. So It'll be really interesting. It won't come out for a while, but I've always wanted to know, and Jay and I have been friends over the years. He's always been great by me, but I've always wondered what the hell happened to Jay. What's his life like now? So we're gonna find out.
Man, can't wait, Bob. Can't wait, brother. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
You too, man. Hit
Thank
straight.
you so much, Bob Kravitz of The Athletic. Make sure you give him a follow. We'll be back with David Eckert from Blue and White Illustrated. Talk a little bit more about the Penn State Indiana game coming up. Brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore. She's got over a decade of experience, and that can make the difference in you getting the home you want. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore, 317-298-0961, or Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, Hoosier fan. Hey, David, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Wish I was coming out there this weekend, but I'm not.
Yeah, it should be fun, man.
Well, it may be
It's a
fun
shame.
for probably going to be a lot more fun for you all.
I don't know. We'll see.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be. I don't think it's going to be a walkover.
It depends if they can get that damn offense going.
Yeah, can't give the ball away.
Yeah.
It's funny. It feels very similar to Penn State last year to me.
Well, that's why I kept saying I do a podcast with Dustin Schutte. You know Dustin Schutte for Saturday Tradition? I keep calling it the Penn State effect, that Indiana's on the brink of reaching that.
Yeah.
Just kind of spiraling their season out of control. I don't think they're there yet, but one more performance like Iowa, and they could be heading down that road.
Oof, that was
Well,
rough.
Penn State won 4 in a row, though.
But they lost 5 in a row.
First, and then they won 4 in a row.
Are you just trying to unjustify my claim?
No. Yeah, it was a spiral down for sure. I can't believe that loss led to 5 losses. It was just a freak year.
Yeah, man. Yeah. They like I said, I mean, it's they had a quarterback trying to do too much. They gave the ball away. And
All it takes is one game to turn things around, though. So who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
Penn State turned it around, as Jim was just saying, won 5 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully.
Or 4 in a row. I can't remember what the record was.
It's been nice to see them win some games.
How long have you been with BWI?
This will be my 5th season, but only my 2nd season full time. So I've been hanging around for a while, but I just started doing it full time here.
How many writers do you guys have?
4. Yeah, so we're pretty stocked. We just added a 4th.
All right, I'm going to bring us in from break.
You helped me count pennies from my piggy bank. You helped me pick out my first car. And helped me buy my dream home. And I know you'll continue to be there for whatever my future holds. Because you're my BFF. Banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking. And all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, welcome back on this Friday. Thanks a lot for joining us, as always. Appreciate you. Make sure if you or a partner of yours has sleep apnea, need to see our friends at Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic in Indy. Former dentist and IU basketball players Steve Green and Brian Evans are waiting to help you get the rest you need. Check out Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic located in Indy, aurorasleep.com. Hey, we're joined now by David Eckert from Blue and White Illustrated, Penn State's rivals outlet. How are you, brother? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Jim. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Football season getting under the way pretty nicely for Penn State so far. A lot different than last season.
Yeah, no kidding, man. They've been rolling. They've been taking care of the football, playing great defense. You know, Sean Clifford looks like a good Division I quarterback, which you couldn't always say last season. So yeah, it's they're looking pretty good to start.
He's, I think, averaging 300 through the air right now, 300 plus. What's the difference between this year and last year for him?
Well, there's the new offensive coordinator for one, Mike Yursich, who's done a great job. You know, they're getting creative, and you know, it's I don't want to say it's been easy for Sean, because you know that might take some credit away from him, and I don't want to do that. But you know, the throws that he's making, he's not fitting throws into double coverage. He's not making, you know, laser beam throws over the top. You know, the Yursich is scheming guys open for him. It's nice and simple. You know, it's nothing crazy. And, you know, he's had some good throws too, but I really think that the offensive coordinator change has made a big difference.
Yeah, Indiana had a change there 2 seasons ago, and don't know how much that has had an effect on Michael Penix Jr. coming back. He's recovering from his 3rd consecutive season-ending injury, 2 of those ACLs, and has just struggled. The offense itself has struggled. He seems to have struggled this season to get off onto a good start. The Iowa game where they opened the season, that was not good at all. And they've looked better, but still not where a lot of us thought that they would be. Right now, defensively, they look pretty good, and this is going to be exciting, I think, to watch Indiana's defense against this Penn State offense with Johan Dotson and Sean Clifford doing so well.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and it's every week's a different test for Penn State, and look, they have weapons on the outside, and I know, you know, Indiana's high on their secondary. They have some talent there. So it'll be interesting to see Jahan Dotson, Parker Washington, what they can do against that secondary. But, you know, the other aspect of the start to this season is Penn State can't run the football right now. They just can't. It's very strange. You know, they have some very good running back talent. You know, guys like Noah Cain, Kevon Lee. They brought in John Lovett, graduate transfer from Baylor, who has probably been the most successful of the 3 there. But yeah, you know, if Indiana's defense can turn Penn State's offense one-dimensional, then, you know, I think maybe this game can be closer than some people think it might be.
Well, not only that, they have to turn it one-dimensional, and although that would be Penn State's better dimension, the passing game, then you've got to get turnovers. That's one thing that Indiana did great last year. They led the Big Ten with 20 turnovers, 17 interceptions. That has not been the case this year just yet. But if that's the only way I see Indiana staying in this game, is stopping the run, forcing them to throw only, but then you've got to turn them over at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you're Indiana, you're on the road against the top 5 team, you know, turnovers, special teams, you know, you got to kind of win in the margins, right? And that's going to be a huge key. No doubt about it. And the aspect of Penn State's offense that, you know, outside of the coordinator change is, look, they're not turning the ball over. They've got 2. Sean Clifford has 2 interceptions through 4 games. One of them was a heave at the end of the second half, or the first half, against Auburn. The other one was a drop by Keandre Lambert-Smith that got tipped. So they're playing smart. And yeah, if Indiana can change that, absolutely, this game can go in a totally different direction than what people think.
And the advent of having fans back is a huge advantage for Penn State this weekend, obviously, with 100+ nighttime Nittany Lions fans. You get it in the nighttime, one of the great environments in college football, but it'll be fun to watch. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge. What is Penn State? What's the word on there? What are they looking at? What's the concern from the Penn State side?
It's absolutely running the football. That's all anybody wants to talk about. You know, James Franklin is getting tired of talking about why his team can't run the football. You can tell. But you know, as far as Indiana, I think there's some concern about looking ahead to Iowa next week. Penn State has to go to Iowa. James Franklin is very not concerned, but he's always very, very adamant about a 1 week approach. He won't talk about anything.
John, get that clip ready again, because we're going to play that, because that's actually goes right into. We have a clip that of him saying pretty much exactly what you're saying. If you've got that, John, go ahead and run that.
But our entire focus and energy is on beating Indiana this Saturday, this season. And although previous records, I think are interesting to look at, previous records against certain opponents and all these types of things. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is you have to find a way to beat the team that you are playing this Saturday. When we do our film breakdown, do we look at, especially at this point of the year where it's still fairly early, where you're looking at the most recent games played, and then do you also probably include our game last year? As long as most of the coordinators are the same, do you factor that in? Yes. But for us, we're trying to beat Tom Allen and the Indiana football team for this season and this season alone.
I mean, that's pretty distinct on what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's James Franklin in a nutshell. I think somebody asked him whether he felt his team was one of the best in the country or something, and he was not having it. And that's usually the tack that he takes for sure.
Well, you have to, especially when you're talking about them struggling so much with the run game, because that's when you end up a situation like Indiana last week. They lose to a Cincinnati team that basically they shouldn't have lost to. I just didn't see Cincinnati as being that good. They didn't. Indiana's defense had held them down the entire first half until they lost Micah McFadden. They just didn't do things offensively other than make some critical mistakes. And that's all it would take in a big-time game, to make some critical mistakes at the wrong time and things go the wrong way. So, yeah, that one game at a time mentality, especially if your goal, and I know it is, they want to win the Big Ten East. They're tired of finishing runner-up to Ohio State. Indiana's trying to break into this top 4 of the Big Ten East. So this Big Ten East has become a freaking juggernaut this year. I mean, Where the hell did all these good teams come from? Michigan looks so much better. Talk about a running game. That's probably the best part of their revamped offense is their running game.
Yep.
Which their running backs coach now is Mike Hart, who left Indiana to go there over the season. But yeah, you've got a Maryland team, but this Big Ten East, it's week after week is going to be tough.
Yeah, no kidding. Even Rutgers, right? I mean, Rutgers doesn't look bad. Rutgers under Greg Schiano, I think that's going to be a program you have to respect. So yeah, there's Michigan State, right? Nobody had Michigan State in their top 25 before the season. They're ranked now. So yeah, it's tough. There's going to be a lot of difficult games, and these, if you're Penn State, right, these are the games where you got to win at home. You can't lose. You can't lose at home. You can't lose in prime time. If you want to get to that point that you're talking about, you want to win the Big Ten East. So they got to go to Ohio State this year. So it's you got to win all your other games, and hope that you can eke one out in Columbus.
Yeah, and for Indiana, that's like I said, it's a difficult ask. The environment and all of that. Plus, Penn State's just looks to be a better team right now. You just have to say that. They're playing better. They're producing better. It doesn't mean you can't beat them. It doesn't mean things can't change. Things can't go wrong, turnovers, all that, like we said. But Indiana is going to have to play at a really high level with all of those circumstances in play, being on the road, the crowd, Penn State playing at a higher level right now. But you meant the running game. That could be the key. If Indiana does stop them, and they have a secondary that can cause problems. They've got a pretty damn good defense and a good secondary. So it could make the game very interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And, there's to me, there's two ways that this game goes, right? It's Indiana cleans up their turnovers and they keep it tight. and it's a close game. And then there's Indiana doesn't clean up their turnovers, and Penn State wins by a few scores. To me, those are the two paths that this game can take. So yeah, I would agree with that. It's and if you're Indiana, you've got to find a way to score some points too, because Penn State's defense has played well. They held Auburn to 20. They held Wisconsin to 10, if my memory serves there. Sorry. And yeah, they're playing well. So there's going to have to be some changing trends, I think, for this to go Indiana's way. But that, you're right, it doesn't mean that can't happen. Anything can happen. This is college football. That's what we love about college football, right? So
from the Penn State side, what are the concerns of playing Indiana? What from Indiana's standpoint?
The quarterback, I think, is probably the first one. Michael Penix is a guy who's been around. He's shown that he can play. He's shown that he can beat Penn State. So I think he's the guy that everybody's probably the most worried about. Then you look at Ty Freifogel, right? That's a weapon. Penn State feels really good about their secondary, so that'll be a big test. Penn State's got they've got 2 super seniors and a redshirt junior and another senior in their secondary. So it's a really experienced group. There's going to be some guys playing on Sundays in that group too. So that'll be a big test for them. But yeah, I think the weapons on offense is probably the number one. And I think a lot of Penn State fans kind of have last season's Sean Clifford lingering in the back of their head a little bit. I don't know if everybody fully believes that this is Sean Clifford. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to win games for you. I think, maybe there's some cautious optimism that that's true, but I think Penn State fans kind of know, hey, let's not accept this as what it's going to be right now just yet. So those would probably be the things that Penn State's thinking about.
And the fact of losing to Indiana on that last second 2-point conversion, I've seen so much about people all talking about revenge, and I'm saying that goes out the window as soon as that ball is kicked, man. I said that you can talk about that all you want leading up to the game, but when that ball is kicked, all of that is out the window because you have got nothing but game planning in your head and this and trying to recognize schemes and this and that. You're not thinking about revenge. You got 10,000 things on your mind and a crowd of 100,000 around you making all that noise. So the revenge thing is great to talk about, but at the end of the day, I don't think it means squat.
Yeah, they're not interested in entertaining that narrative at all. They've been asked 2 or 3 times this week, whether it's Franklin or one of the players, and they're like, no, we're not thinking about it. So whether they are thinking about it and they're just not telling us, possible, but I would agree that's not the focus at all.
Well, they'd have quite a few revenge games this year if that was the case.
That is true. Maryland and Iowa should be concerned.
Maryland, man, that's going to be a tough game for Indiana as they go on the road there. Man, David, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you. I look forward to having you back on when basketball season will kick it around again.
Absolutely. Exciting times for Penn State basketball, too. So I look forward to it.
We'll have fun. Indiana has their Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday and the opening of the Mike Woodson era. So, it's going to be an interesting year.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
David Eckert joining us from Blue and White Illustrated, Penn State rivals. We appreciate him joining us here as we're about to close things out, man. What a day it has been. Wow. Alec Lasley, Alec Robbins talking about the Neighbor Relations Board. We had the update on IU recruiting with Alec Lasley, like I said, Zach Osterman, Bob Kravitz, and David. What a full day. What a way to start your Friday, give you all the information you can stand to go out to the weekend. You've got the Hoosier Hysteria coming up tomorrow at 4:00 at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. People can start filling the line at 7 a.m. And I promise you there'll be people there, but guess who won't be? This guy, not at 7 a.m. I'll wait till I get a little closer. But, and also there is going to be a surprise out there tomorrow, man. You're going to, if you're out there, all I can tell you is you're going to see something that is really, really, really cool. Just look for Hank. Start looking for Hank. It is going to be a very, very. I'm trying to tease it, but not spill the beans, man. But you'll see him tomorrow if you're out in line at Hoosier Hysteria. Hank has made his way to town. He'll be out there. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to going to Assembly Hall with fans in attendance this weekend. Even though it's not going to be a full-time game, just to be out in that environment is always fun, like we said. And then, of course, you've got the Penn State game at 7:30. If you're in town and for Hoosier Hysteria and you're done, looking for a place to eat, go head over to Southern Stone, of course. Great place to finish off the day, have a great meal, watch the game. So all kinds of things to do, man, this weekend to keep your weekend in order. John, that has pretty much been a full show. That's about as much as we can squeeze in there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much we had going on today, but it was definitely a fully loaded slate. As you said yesterday, a fully loaded baked potato.
Hank the Bison, Ross asked? Potentially. Yes, possibly. Do you know who Hank the Bison is, Ross? And if you do, I'd like to know how you do. But, yeah, keep an eye out, man. This is going to blow your mind. It's pretty damn cool. I'm not going to lie to you. Hey, man, that wraps it up. What a great week, and what a way to finish it, like I said. I cannot thank Alec Lasley enough, Alex Robbins, Zach Osterman, Bob Kravitz, David Eckert, John, the producer. But most importantly, thank you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. I hope you get out and enjoy a high school game tonight or Hoosier Hysteria tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see you one way, form, or another. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.